mitigation
is they
because it's too
came to us
expensive.
and said that they were gonna have to mitigate 3 acres and it was gonna be over 80,000 an
Yeah,
acre.
we just-
Which we talked about, well, how about not doing the grade raise, then we wouldn't have to mitigate those.
Yes, that's what we
I
talked
thought.
about.
Yes.
Well, that's
Exactly.
the estimate
Yeah.
today now.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I thought I was wrong.
I think,
No, we talked about no mitigation.
I know, but we talked about no grade raise.
We talked about no raise.
Yes,
my opinion means 0, and some will say less, but I think you have 2 options, and that is you leave it as it is right now for another year, or you go with just a little overlay on it and put pavement back on it, and because I just don't I don't know where you're gonna have.
I'm in that camp too.
2.5 million is well over what you got for Prairie Dog, and you got a bridge that's gotta go, that's got way priority over up north, over that, and plus, the traffic was flying up and down that road at 50 miles an hour last summer, and we blade it when we get moisture, and whether it stays that way or not for another year, I think anybody that drove it said it was an improvement after we got it.
Absolutely, and it's a short distance.
It's
not
a
like
mile
you're
and a
driving
half.
50
I was gonna say,
It's not a mile
even
and a half.
if we had the money, I wouldn't agree to spend $2 million on a mile.
ah, for whatever that is.
So, if we
Well, I
leave
mean, it's totally disappointing on the money we're getting. That's disappointing from Prairie Dog. You know, I really thought this year would be a lot more. So,
Yeah.
that's less, this is double. We can't do that.
so can we leave it go for a year?
We can go leave it here or make a 4-inch overlay. I think those are our 2 options.
Yeah, I'm in favor of putting the dang overlay on and be done with it.
Yeah.
It's only a mile, a little over a mile.
Mile and a half at the most, ain't
And
it?
you're gonna be slowing down.
1.52.
It's a mile and a half.
You know, and here's the thing, and I'm no engineer, and I thought, I suppose in logic, it would make sense, but is there any proof that raising it 1.5 feet will keep the longevity of that road intact? There's no proof of that. Just because you're raising it 1 foot, does that mean it's gonna last longer? There's still water on the edges. Maybe there is, but.
When you look at where that water has to go, there's gonna be water in that slough for a long time.
Does it eventually drain out of there?
It sure hasn't in the last 30
How
years.
about like this drone?
I've seen it dry before, but it's not a lasting impact.
It gets higher, but there's
no water whatsoever.
too. Going east, it all levels out through that whole Bremen's.
It does run away once it gets so high, otherwise it'd
Yeah.
be over the road.
And it goes east.
But the amount of water that has to go through, I mean, I think the last time I remember it dry was in the late 80s.
And it would be, the water that sits in there is mostly stagnant
Yes.
to the
Yeah.
top, because there is no place for it to go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've seen it dry, but
All that water goes along the railroad tracks down by Bremen, it's just a solid lake all the way to Bremen. You can go
Solid
up there and
swamp.
look. And all that water that goes underneath that highway, you gotta go there, and it's wetlands is what it is.
It really is, but we gotta face the fact, we cannot afford to do it the way it is.
I knew it was gonna be high, I didn't know until this morning.
I didn't think it was quite that high.
I had to give you a
But
heads up.
it was really different than what we had talked about.
I know.
I really thought it'd come in less than what we
Well,
did.
then we can give them our answer next month, what we want to do. Right?
Yeah, I think everybody think about it, but I'll put my 2 cents in right now. I think we just pave that sucker and be.
Well, the other thing that I know you guys don't want to be here after, but the other, I've been watching the bid letting. Okay, so there was a major bid letting at the end of March. Okay, I've been watching to see when they're going to do 52. From Fesman to Drake. Okay, so they did the passing lane project last year. That was supposed to be driving lane project included. I had heard rumblings that it was going to be pushed off another year. I did not see any bids for, at the end of March, there was nothing bid for Wells County of them paving through here. But another option that you have is watching that bid letting, and when that project comes through, hiring that contractor that's already here, mobilized and set up exactly like you did on number 5.
Kind of like we did on the West End.
Exactly. it can stay, I know Dennis says, let's just pave it, but you got mobilization and everything else.
I'll agree with that, that if you got that plant set up, it could be a lot better.
It could be even
But
cheaper.
didn't Ken say there's gonna be something mobilized north of, south of Maddox or in that area? That would be an option, that we would need that 52?
It was up on the curves.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which would be just as close.
And to be honest with you, I didn't look at Benson County, I was watching Wells, because I wanted to see what was gonna happen.
There's
to
something
Wells.
on Benson County.
Yeah, there is, I think.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there'd be a
you're,
plan.
Kent, you're right, Kent
Ken
did
had
say that.
mentioned that.
But yeah, I mean, you know, leaving it ground up for a year is not gonna hurt a thing.
No,
But paving it, I promise you, you'll pave it cheaper this fall than you will next fall. If you
well,
put
that's
the
the
4
thing,
inch
if
on.
somebody sets up this year, let's investigate that.
Yeah, and it'd be just another setup, exactly what you did on the west
Yeah.
end.
Okay, let's think about it next month.
You guys have any questions for me? I just was frustrated because I didn't want to spend money, we're trying to cut back, so I told Mr.
You know, I'll give
Gonzalez.
everyone credit, they got a business here, and if we would ever be in a bind.
Oh, absolutely.
It would be a good.
Well, especially if you're really short of workers.
Yeah.
You know, it's no different
Then it
than
would be a good option
and
for us, but
hiring
here we
someone
got
for
our
that.
own crew, and we are short of money to do it, you know.
I mean, believe me, crack pouring is very important, you have to pour the cracks, but at the state highway, I promise you, the state is not crack.
As long as Brent's here, a quick deal on the DOT and the weigh scales. Were they-
Yeah,
Do we need to call them every time? or
no.
They'll come?
Have you seen them?
No.
Oh, I've seen them quite a bit.
Are they on all our county roads?
I've seen them north of Harvey, and I've seen them on Old 52. I have not been down on 71, but I've heard they're down.
But they have a map of all our county roads.
Yes, so
Okay, well, that's-
I'm glad you brought that up, because, I made the call, and the sergeant that finally got back to me, he said that they wanted us, they would gladly come patrol our highways. In fact, they just needed basically an email or a phone call from Chris that it would be okay. I got ahold of Chris, he made the call or the email. Within a week, we started seeing the DOT trucks, the weights guy around. And the gentleman that I spoke to said that they're gonna try to be working Wells County highways once a week throughout the summer.
Ooh.
And,
Boone?
and
Don't get over
There is-
speed. Speeding's
there's
more
already
dangerous.
been
Well,
guys
take
that
my old
have called
truck and
me.
they can have it.
There has been guys that have called me asking me why the DOT is on county pavement. I have seen the DOT 3 times just in my travels on our pavement. I heard somebody got stopped out south, but I can't verify that.
That's
But
71, you
on
mean?
71, I knew they were down there because, yeah. So,
Somebody got it up north too.
yeah, and somebody got it up north.
That
And
would
they,
get
Yeah,
around.
ask Boone, Boone will know.
and they also told me that at least a couple times this summer that there'll be a day that they will set up a DOT inspection point on one of our highways where they're stopping every truck.
That'll shut down both the farms for weeks.
So they,
You gotta get ahead.
I can
It's up.
say
They
that
gotta license some of those trucks.
from going from 6-8 months without seeing a DOT vehicle on our highways, now we're seeing them almost on a weekly basis.
Well, that's a good thing, it's just, that
Believe me,
maybe
we're-
too much, but.
Word
you
has
shouldn't
got
have-
out.
You shouldn't have to call them. That's what I thought, wouldn't they be their job
Well,
just to?
One of the other problems is our DOT, the guy that had the scales around Wells County was based out of Maddox. His name is Miles. He moved to Grand Forks. But he was still patrolling our area.
So he wasn't around much.
He wasn't around much.
So anyway, yeah, we got that covered down. One other thing, that contract, everybody read that over good, and then Dan's gonna check with Oliver, but, see if we can find anything else that isn't agreeable,
Like the township one.
that township contract.
I don't have a problem with it. I really don't, but there's just a couple word changes.
Yeah.
that-
Well, we,
And I think
We talked about
We
that.
did that already, so
yeah, that was fine.
I think we're good there.
Oh, and then, as far as applications, so as you guys obviously know, the Wells County Road Department right now is 8 blade guys and me. One other thing, Jeff Huss when he retired last November, or last October, had expressed interest in coming back for seasonal help in the summer. I spoke to Jeff a month ago, and actually spoke to him about the time Sean left, and then spoke to him again here last week. Jeff is seriously on the fence about coming out of retirement.
You didn't like it?
A lot of people
It's not all that it's cracked up to be.
It isn't all that it's cracked up.
He's trying to do a house down by Bowden, and he says, you know what? He says, I feel good. He's contemplating, he says, if I wanted to come out of retirement and work for Wells County for another 1.5 to 2 years, would the county hire me back? And I told him that if it were up to me, I would say yes. I'm going to see him again
You know
on
what you're
Friday.
getting there.
Huh?
Then you know what you're getting.
Yep. I'm gonna see him again on Friday. Huey's retirement party is at the bunker at 5 o'clock. You're welcome to come up for cake, this Friday. And wish Huey off. And Jeff is gonna come to that, and he said me and him would talk before. And we are staying in constant contact. Now Jeff tells me that if he came back for seasonal help, once he reaches 67, or like Dan said, there's no limit on what he can make, and he reaches that in June. So there, if he came back in June 1st, he would have to work, fewer hours for June, but he would, I think it's safe to say he wants to come back and at least work seasonal help June, July, August, September, October. And I think within a week or two, he's gonna decide if he wants to stop getting his PERS payment and come out of retirement.
Sounds like a plan. We gotta move on here, because we're.
Just wanted to share that with you. I'll let you guys go.
You got applications for other people?
Dan and I talked on Monday about putting an ad in the paper. I have the one application from Mr. Arnold. The other guy I spoke to, it wasn't really for him, it was for another guy I brought up off the record with you guys. So the only application I have is Jimmy Arnold.
Well, you're here, there's one more thing, is the Billadu Township, that's the culverts down there?
Yeah.
We gotta make a decision, we gotta make a decision. We've talked about it, we gotta make a decision.
Yep.
We have a new policy, but this has been in the works for
3 or 4 years, right?
At least 2.5, 3.
So what's your guys' thinking on this?
My thought is it's on a pretty known river system there, water source, so why wouldn't we be helping with it, I guess?
Paying for the culvert.
That's,
They can do the dirt work, right?
Yeah.
Is that our thing here?
that's,
Well, that's our old thing, it's not our
Well,
new thing.
I understand that, but
that's
this,
the old policy.
well, are we going by the old policy or the new policy?
Or, I'll just make it more complicated, or do we do a 70-30 or 80-20, or give them a break because
Do a
we
cost
talked about it
share.
before? Because you know what, the new policy wouldn't pay anything, correct?
Correct.
How about, do they qualify at all for that flex company? Or something like
They
that?
should be able to.
Yeah, but that's kinda unknown and.
Yeah, we'll get money there a year from now.
Yeah, it'll never get done,
So,
then.
what would be the cost of the culvert? Just a question.
57,000.
Huh?
57,000.
Lots.
57,000.
That was priced out in March.
That would be our share.
That would be 100% cover cost. to look
Yeah,
at
and they would do
this.
the dirt work.
They do.
They've already contracted 2 contractors and got bids for the project. I know that because the contractor called.
Is it cheap or petty if we come back with an offer of 40,000 or half, or do we just pay for it?
I'm thinking.
I'm just throwing
I'm
options.
thinking, being this has been in the works for so many years, we cut our losses on this, and if we just went on, we go with the new policy.
No other townships have contacted me about any bridge in any township. Nobody has even, and to be honest with you,
There's only like one out.
1 or 2 out there. You've basically you've helped the other, I'm not showing my favoritism here, but I'm saying you guys have done like 4 or 5 of these, and there's maybe 1 or 2 in the county left. And if you had to rate all the bridges, this would probably been priority one out of all the bridges that you've done in the past, because this is the pipe span, and the amount of water that comes through there off the dam is tremendous.
So it brings me back to the question, what do you guys want to do?
I would say we should, but it should also be stated in there that we did this because of the discussion before, because you know as well as I do, somebody's gonna see this. And it needs to be said in there why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
Because it was already kind of grandfathered in.
Right, we're
Is that-
going against-
I will make a motion.
Okay, we got a motion on the floor to pay the culvert with the understanding that this is the last one out of the old policy,
Right.
right?
Because it was implemented before.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, Brian Miller seconded. Any other discussion on it?
And say it's gotta be timeline yet, or?
I would order the culverts today. If you pass this, I'm calling True North and ordering the
Because you
culverts.
said.
And they put them in, I mean,
They've already got a contractor from what I'm told that is
Well,
already
then do
been
it.
offered
We
the job.
could just well do it.
Any other discussion? I think it's in place. Any, hearing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. You can give
I will contact Dave Richter and I will call True North Steel immediately and get the pipes ordered.
Very good.
Thank you guys. Have a nice day, enjoy the nice weather.
We'll be in here all day.
Well, tomorrow's gonna be nice.
Dan, what do you got on the Wells County budget bill?
Well, we gotta start hammering away at that.
Really?
You don't have optimism that that bill will pass, that we don't have to send those estimates? Isn't there a bill?
Well, I'm not even worried about that. I'm worried about planning and preparation and where we're at. So I looked at the CPI and it's at 2.8%. And I think most people will agree that's probably going to increase. But I want some parameters, I want some guidance, because I don't want to waste my time either, working on something that's never even going to be ballpark and fruition. And I will tell you, on April 17th, when next our department's meeting occurs, the employees are going to have this put in front of them too, and they're going to get handed their budget sheets at that particular time. You know, I told you when you hired me, it's going to take me a couple of years to figure out your budget, and I pretty much have at this juncture. I think the one that we put together this last year was, the money part notwithstanding, is the best piece of stuff I put together for you. And that said, I want some guidance from this group. I don't, you know, I've used this analogy before. I don't want to become your lightning rod. That's what I used to be with the school district. I was a lightning rod. I took all the hits and they sat there and I make a motion to whatever, and you know, I don't want to become the lightning rod for this group either. And this is essentially what you guys, this is under your purview, and I just want some guidance, and you don't even have to give it to me today, but you have to start thinking about this stuff.
Right.
What has occurred here already today was a huge sock in the gut, and I'm not done yet. Okay, I got some other stuff here that's gonna be depressing for this area of the state. Okay, but that being said, I need some guidance from you.
The increase you talked about was how much?
Well, CPI is 2.8 right now. And that's as
And the
of,
parameters you really want to know is what kind of, I mean, salaries are the big thing,
Yeah,
is what kind of
inflation.
It's a
salary.
regular inflation. We want
CPI,
to go up
consumer
last
price
year.
index is
Yeah.
2.7 as of now. Went up 3.4
2.8, it said.
last year, right?
yeah, something like that.
You
And then
think-
the other avenue that we took an approach on last year was to try and bring equity to our employee group, okay? So an employee who has a family versus an employee who's single, or an employee that's single plus dependent, or that type of thing. We tried to bring equity to that by providing additional compensation to people who either didn't take insurance or took a single or took an SPD policy. is that something you want to continue working towards? Because there's still a marked difference between full family and.
Now that we did it last year, I think you should continue to do that.
And it
Until
may
that
not be
gets
able to be
right
at the
on.
same numbers. In fact, I would dare say you can't do it at the same numbers. Last year, we funded 2,400, 1,200. Those were the two. We're not gonna be able to meet those numbers again this year. We just won't. So it has to be less than that, but if that's something that you're committed to, maybe it's 1,500 this time around,
Right.
or,
Yeah.
something like that. But I need direction from you, because otherwise, all I'm doing is fiddling with numbers. And then if I get something out there and that costs too much, give me some guidance.
Well, I think you mentioned one right there where we could trim that a little bit, yeah.
So you're saying the budget's probably gonna end up at a 2.8 increase to the salaries?
That's not for me to say, Brian.
No, but I mean what you're saying is that is the number that is out there.
Right now, that's what's out there. And obviously, there's still
7 months.
8 months of the
That might
year.
go up another 1.5%.
It certainly could, and if something doesn't
Nothing's
change,
not.
it's going to. Okay?
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing to take into consideration, there's a lot of property tax relief bills out there right now that are putting a 3% tax or 3% cap on our expenditures the next year. That's something to consider too.
Sure.
So
And we're gonna have to be aware of that when we work this.
I'd like to think by our next meeting, when we know all that stuff,
You'd be pretty darn close to done.
it's gotta be close to done by the end.
They do get into May, but not very far.
And that's gonna get done about an hour before they adjourn.
Exactly.
That's what the big bills usually,
They should start there.
well,
Anything else on that, Dan?
No, not really. I put your page in there, and so I put something in there, and you guys are unique employees because outside of PERS, you're not benefited employees, so I put something in there. And you can do your own math at this point, so.
you want more details on this by next month, right? Or today?
Well, no, I don't need them today, but it's very, you've been already put in a really, really difficult spot. You can discuss what Jason was here for, you can discuss that for all 30 days between now and next month, and it's not gonna help you.
No, that's fine.
No, that's a bad deal. I mean, we just gotta decide to do something and stay with it. If we're gonna do anything or leave it like it is.
Yeah.
That really helps us.
I can't possibly be more disappointed. Okay, in baseball analogy, you swung and missed at a pitch that was way outside the strike zone.
Yeah.
Okay, wasn't even close.
Right.
Okay, that
$1 million
gives
more.
me zero confidence.
I
All
totally
engineering.
agree 100% there, that's right. I think where we're at, let's get back to one quick minute here. I think it needs to just get paved, but only if we have a setup nearby that we could finagle it.
Pave it.
That makes sense.
That's the camp on that.
And if the frost goes out and that one spot is bad, that has to be dug out. There's one spot that's really ugly.
What that does is it frees some of that money up for us, like for instance, that Sykes and all that stuff.
Or the bridge project out here that everybody's worried about. I mean, it's.
Okay, I guess we're all on the same page with that then. Courthouse roof and elevator. We need
That
both.
sounds like more of a good news thing.
How can that be good
He's
news?
got some papers laying there, maybe it ain't.
No, that's
That's really sarcasm.
I was, I'll just say, I was pleasantly surprised with the roof bid. Maybe not quite so much with the elevator bid, but the elevator becomes an ADA issue. You have to address that. You simply cannot have a courthouse on the 3rd floor of this building if you don't have that elevator fully functioning. It's just not possible. All right, so with the technology that they have in that room, it isn't like you can move that out to the festival hall for a couple months and call it good. You can't. So that's one, and I spoke with Carla about regarding, is this something that, we could apply for that to the Supreme Court for the courthouse grant, and of course those don't even get taken in until late this fall. So I mean, we can approve it and wait and see if it will qualify. The other part is, what do you do if your roof is leaking at home? Do you wait till you can afford it? No, hell no, you don't. Why don't you? Because it's going to do more damage and it's going to cost you more. And every time the wind blows here in the summertime, we're going to lose shingles on this building. We just are. And why are we going to lose shingles on the building? Because when it was done, it just gets too hot in the attic, and that's what we put the ventilation system up there for. And so every shingle on this building was going to be loose. Any wind that blows is going to cause them to come off. So at some point, whether it's this year, next year, the year after, and I don't know of any leaks presently taking place. We've patched up everything, but they're going to keep coming off here, and it's going to cost me, $1,000 every time I have to call somebody over here to replace 6 or 8 shingles or whatever the case is. It just is what it is. So I don't envy you, but your capital, your buildings, your structure here and across the street, and we talked about it earlier with the festival hall, and the fair board has their own issues with the grandstand and with this and with that. Unfortunately, they're the only things of value that you have. So you need to protect those things, but
So the elevator, that's functional now, but
it's functional. But
Stuff
if
is-
anything breaks on it, there are no parts
The
available.
proposal is 72,000, that's a total replacement?
Yes.
I thought that would probably be more than
I was gonna say, I thought that'd be more.
that. So there's, you guys, those two bills right there, or proposals right there, are enough reason to just blacktop that.
I say just leave it.
Or leave it, yeah?
So, in the roofing deal, when the contractor does this roof, can we stipulate that it has to be done between certain time of the year?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, the shingles aren't gonna stick where they got it.
It's on there to be completed before September 1st.
Okay, because that's a big issue.
Dollar wise, do we have to put this out on bids?
No.
Legal wise, we don't have to.
Century Code, the limit now is $200,000.
Oh, it's
which is-
200 now.
Which is the same as what you have to get an architect for, or an engineer.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Okay,
I thought it was, it used to be like,
25 grand. And it was
Way less,
a
yeah.
complete waste of time. You did stuff that was, come on.
so it went from 25 to 200.
So we gotta do this, the 92 is for the shingle.
yeah, that's the
Yeah.
roof.
We'll have to do that, right?
72 is, well,
How many square is it, does anybody know?
Well, the intangible here with labor is the height of where you're at up there.
all, the good includes all labor, materials, lifts, and everything.
And there's some areas that are flat too that you gotta work on. Are they gonna get redone as of the rest with shingles? And flat areas too?
Well, this is the whole roof.
Well,
Yeah, on that first paragraph,
Right, says that.
north flat section,
Yeah,
above on the south side.
yeah.
I suppose we should do it.
So what do you wish is to do both of these, you guys?
Well, at least they're putting new OSB board on it.
I suppose we can use the